Welcome to the 2025 MCBI Spring Blaze doubleheader, the coverage of which is brought to you through the kind sponsorship of Rock Hard Cement VP Fuels and Vision Equipment Supply. This event kicks off the championship for both the Motoring Club and also the Barbados Rally Club. With that being the case, the entry list boasts a 42 driver seed for the first event of the year, with each taking advantage to gain early points in the season, but to also use it as a shakedown for the upcoming Shakedown Rally in April. As this was also the championship starter for the Barbados Rally Club, we caught up with the 2024 two-wheel drive champion Rhett Watson to see how ready he was to defend this title this season.
The plan remains the same as it was last year. I had no intention of running for the whole championship. It just worked out that way. It worked out my favour. So this year we start again, see what happens. My plan is to do all the Rally Club events. And also the main focus is Rally Barbados. Not only for myself, my sponsors, that's the biggest event of the year. So we won't be 110% in all the events, but for Rally Barbados, we will be as prepared as possible. You know, went into max attack.
This season brings some new names, new faces, new cars, and indeed old faces in new cars too. One such driver was George Sherman, who had recently returned from rallying a Ford Fiesta in the UK, but was now in a Skoda Rally 2 car, recently campaigned by Logan Watson in 2024 and before that by Zane Maloney. Here is what George had to say about the car after being able to drive it in anger at a doubleheader held the day before.
I think the gearing's different. Seems like there's more low-end torque. You could throttle steer this a lot more than the Fiesta, which I like, suits me better. I'm generally just more comfortable in this car. I got comfortable the very first time I sat in it, so.
Brilliant to hear.
Really enjoyed yesterday, and I know I'm nowhere near what that car could do yet, but that's what the next few events are for, you know?
A delayed arrival would not provide us with enough time to get words from MCBI drivers champion Tremaine Ford Catwell before having to head to the stage. But we were able to catch up with the BRC champion driver Stuart Maloney to get a sense as to his approach for this event.
There's still a big confidence factor that involved. We don't drive every day, every week, so it's still, being out of a car for a month makes it a bit different. So you are rusty, but the cars allow you to get into them quickly. But there's always a lot left, you know. Pretty much perfect. I like that. Definitely, I'm not the best in tight stuff, and I much prefer when you can hang it all out.
Using the same geographic location as previous years, this year's configuration would see drivers tackling a high-speed stage from Kendall Woods to Cherry Grove for 4 runs, and then in the reverse direction for another 4 runs with the fastest run in each direction, counting to the respective overall results. Now, let's have a look at the top 10 overall and fastest in each class in the first direction. First up with a 10th overall finish would be Andrew Jones, who looked considerably confident with a dominant performance to also take second in Super Modified 2 in his Mark II Ford Escort. Securing a top 10 finish with 9th overall would be Paul Horton in his Rally 2 Citroen C3 with a fastest time nearly 6 seconds faster than his first run. Living up to his 2025 campaign to secure a 2025 two-wheel driver's title, Rhett Watson would secure a respectable 8th overall and fastest two-wheel drive driver in this direction. A slight stall at the start of one of his runs would not dampen the spirits of Roger Hill, who would secure a 7th fastest time overall in the forward direction. Sixth overall, and just 0.43 of a second off of a top 5 finish would be Rob Swan in his Skoda Fabia. Rounding up the top 5 would be Mark Maloney, who, though admitting that high-speed stages wasn't his forte, illustrated that he would be a driver to contend with once the confidence was there. .13 of a second would be the only margin between Jeffrey Panton and a top 3 finish. The Jamaican would have to settle for 4th overall in the morning direction. Ending the morning direction third overall would be Kyle Gregg in his Ford Fiesta Rally 2 car, with an ever-consistent set of top 3 times for most of the forward direction. With a fastest overall first run, pundits for a second believed that Stuart Maloney would have taken the morning direction, but 0.21 of a second would steal his grasp of capturing the overall win on the very last run. With 3 fastest runs under his belt, Dane Skeet would secure an overall fastest time on the final run of the day by a narrow margin. The WRC Subaru continues to show its pace notwithstanding its age. Now let's have a look at first in each class. First in Modified 4 would be Kurt Thompson, who would be the sole Thompson in the group, with brother Mark not taking part in the day's events. First in Modified 2, and with a respectable 14th overall finish, would be Neil Corbin. Right behind Neil Corbin in 15th overall would be Edward Corbin, who would secure a class win in Modified 1. Sean Merritt was clearly determined to put his car to its limits with some impressive times, which would see him finish first in Group B and 17th overall. In a renewed electric blue BMW E36, Kevin Armstrong would put down some respectable times for most of the morning and conclude with a class win in Clubman 3. Fastest driver in Clubman 2, or the Bimmer Cup class as it's become to be known as, was David Balgobin. First in Modified 1 and sporting the competition number 265 to our amusement was Stephen Nichols in a Nissan March. With the first direction over, spectators and officials would shift position for the reverse direction, which would see cars coming from Cherry Grove to Kendall Woods. Kicking off the top 10 would be George Sherman, who would find a lot more confidence in the car and himself on the reverse directions, and would improve from his first run by more than 10 seconds. Maintaining his consistency for top 10 finishes would be Paul Horton, who would end the day 9th overall. Improving from 9th to 8th, overall in this direction, would be Rhett Watson, who at the end of the day would be well on his journey to secure his two-wheel drive title in 2025. With another consistent performance, Roger Hill would maintain his 7th overall from the morning direction to secure good points on the season opener. In a battle with Rob Swan for most of the afternoon, Mark Maloney would finish 6th overall by 0.28 of a second to Swan on their respective fastest runs. Improving as the day went by and eager to get a top 5 result, Rob Swan would achieve just that goal on the very last run of the day. From the word go, an intense battle between Jeffrey Panton and fellow Jamaican Kyle Gregg would ensue. At the end, Panton would finish 4th behind Gregg by just 0.42 of a second. Taking a podium in both directions would be Kyle Gregg, who pundits would argue still had much to show in this Ford Fiesta package. Flat out, again as seen here, Stuart Maloney would again secure a fastest time on one of the runs. But that would just not be good enough for the Drivers' Champion, who would finish 2nd overall. The pundits were right. On these long straights, it would be a hard fight to beat Dane Skeet in the WRC Subaru. Showing little to no mistakes would secure a win in both directions for Skeet. With the top 10 all rounded up, let's have a look at the fastest in each group. First up would be Kurt Thompson in his Mitsubishi Evo 9, who would secure a fastest overall finish in Group Modified 4. Fastest in Modified 2 would be the BRC Club chairman Neil Corbin, with an identical 14th overall finish in this direction. Sean Merritt left a lot to be talked about after this event. His clean and consistent driving would see him finish 16th overall and first in Group B. Speaking of clean and consistent, Edward Corbin in his Daihatsu Charman would finish first in Super Modified 1 and 17th overall. It was not so much of a pleasant day for Jonathan Still. However, he would redeem himself with a 19th overall finish and first in Modified 3 in this direction. On the other end of the spectrum, Kevin Armstrong would start and end the day on a high note to finish the day as the fastest driver in Clubman 3. David Balgobin would secure another win in the hotly contested Clubman 2 group. In his first closed road outing, Stephen Nichols looked very comfortable in each run throughout the day and would secure a first in Modified 1. Rounding up the class winners would be Sean Brathwaite with a first in Clubman 1. Before we go, we just wanted to wish Carl Burville a speedy recovery. Carl would have been struck by a vehicle after the event while outside of his house and sustained serious injuries. Fortunately, he is on the road to recovery. Get well soon, Carl. Well, that's the end to the season opener, which has left a lot to be discussed among the pundits. With the season's first rally on the horizon April 6th, both spectators and drivers alike will surely be eager for the next outing. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe our YouTube page and see you on the stages.